Okay, so a term you'll hear all the time in the world of bass education is arpeggio. And if you've been following me for a while, you've probably come to realize that an arpeggio is just a chord played one note at a time rather than all of the notes being played simultaneously. Understanding how to play arpeggios is the absolute cornerstone to being able to improvise bass lines and solos at any level from beginner to advanced. And I'm going to show you 5 ways to map this on your fingerboard today, so pay close attention. Now, before we get started, I want to remind all beginners out there in YouTube land that I'm starting a beginner's course on August 31st. The course lasts for 24 weeks and consists of over 50 video lessons as well as 4 live webinars. If you're a beginner and you want to be part of this course, then just click the link over here and it'll explain everything you need to know to get started. But if you have any further questions about this course, just leave them in the comments below. Now, you've already probably seen some lessons where people demonstrate a triad, which is just a 3-note arpeggio, and maybe even learned it in one position, but there are other ways, and I'm going to show you that today. So if we take a C major triad and we play it in the lowest position, this is what we're going to have. If we then continue moving up the fretboard, we're going to find out that we can play this from 5 different locations where we're covering the entire real estate of our fingerboard, and then we can then start applying that to the different keys. So what we do is if we looked at that first position, we started on the 3rd, which is an E, okay? And then I played up to the 5th, back down to the 3rd. The next position here is going to start on the 5th. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to play up to the octave. Then I'm going to move this up to the root and play it this way. And then I'm going to play it from the root again. Notice how it goes from the root up to the 3rd. Then I'm going to start on the 3rd, play it here. And then I'm going to start it on the 3rd here, and that's playing the octave of where we started, because that was this position, an octave above. So the whole concept with this is we're covering 5 different positions. Now note, I just played 6 because I always like to repeat that first position, because sometimes in different keys we're going to have open strings. So this is very important, and a lot of people will say, Joe, why do you have 2 positions where you start on the root and 2 positions where you start on the 3rd? Well, the main reason is so we don't miss out that great chunk of our fretboard that covers that fingerboard real estate. This is super important. We want to see where all of these notes occur in this positional hierarchy as we go up. Another thing that's really important is the way we finger these. Now, if you look at the interval distance of just take a normal triad and we have the root to the 3rd, that's a major 3rd. Then if I go root to the 5th, that's a minor 3rd. And then if I go 5 to the root, that's a 4th. And that 4th creates a little bit of a problem, especially with beginners, because when we have a 4th, we could actually finger that 4th 3 different ways. We could bar that 4th. So if I had the barring from that 5 to the root, could be like this. I could play it with an individual finger, and it could be different fingers depending upon what position you're in. If I was here, I could go like this, or I could orchestrate that with separate fingers. And if you notice the way that I'm doing this, I'm playing this with separate fingers, okay? And the reason is because it's cleaner, and especially in the beginning stages. So there's going to be different times where you might want to bar a note, and there's going to be times where you might want to play it with an individual finger, and there's going to be times where you're doing it like I did in that first position, where you're using different fingers to play it. But when you use the different finger methodology, you have to learn to stack your fingers. This is super important, because what you don't want is to be fingering it like this. Notice, because that note was so down on the fret that it made a little buzz. So I want the note to be very clear. So we have to fret this just below the metal fret. It's where the note is. If you rip the frets out, that's where the actual pitch is. So your best tone on the instrument will be there. So you really want to work on that stacking process so you get that. And then notice that when I go from here, this is really important too, is that you're already moving into position here for this fingering. So you don't want to do this and then all of a sudden have to move up from, your finger might have been hovering around the E string, and then now you have to move. You want to be here, and I'm already in position here, so you're always thinking a little bit of ahead, whether you're going up or down. And a lot of this stuff is covered in great depth and great detail in the Bass Foundation course. In a YouTube lesson, we can't go through all the various different possibilities. This is just a teaser for the course. So note that when we went here for this position, we have 2 of those fourths. And the way that I'm working on that stacking principle, very important. Okay, when we go to this root position here, I'm playing this with a bar. And bars are usually, not all the time, and as you get better with this, but usually, even at advanced levels, bars are better when you're playing it with your first finger. I'm not saying you can't do it with the second and third, but it's a little bit harder. It's a little bit more skill, and coordination to get that. So that bar with the first finger is good. It keeps us all in position here with our 1 finger per fret position, okay? Then from here, again, I have my stack and I'm going up. And notice how I'm always thinking ahead to the note I'm going to, whether it's up or down. Okay, then when we get here, again, stacking. And then when I get here, stacking. And this allows us to play it cleaner and more even. It's very important to understand this concept. And in the course, we go really deep into this concept where you can really see all over your fretboard in any key how this stuff works. And this is where you can actually use it. Because if you're just playing a root position triad, very often you don't see that the shapes of the sound in the things that you're going to play, because it's very important to apply this to the music you're listening to. So it doesn't really matter if you're playing an African groove or a rock tune. Or an R&B groove. Or even the hockey charge tune. It's all comprised of a major triad, and even though you might be able to understand what this looks like on your fretboard, you have to be able to understand what it sounds like, regardless of style. The process is actually quite simple. What you want to do as early as possible is to associate the shapes that you're practicing with the actual sounds they produce, and then start to be able to do a comparative analysis with the music that you're listening to, regardless of style. This is super important. There's a ton of people out there that know these shapes. They know what they look like on the fingerboard, but they don't have a clue when it comes to what they sound like. So this must be your goal right from the get-go. And this is exactly what we're going to be covering in detail in my bass foundation course. So by learning major triads using the 5 different position concept, you'll become a savvy improvising bass player in no time. Aside from my upcoming bass foundation course, another great resource for beginners is the Sight Reading Compendium for Electric Bass. Yes, this is a book about sight reading, but the dirty little secret about sight reading is that if you don't have a complete understanding of your bass, then you won't be able to read much. In other words, you'll never be able to read what you can't play. This is paramount. And this book is organized to give you a much deeper understanding of the instrument. So be sure to click over here and grab your copy now. Please remember to like and subscribe, and even better, share this video with your friends and across social media. That way YouTube will think I'm awesome. And if you subscribe, make sure to click on the notifications bell. That way, every time I release a new video, you'll be immediately notified. Until next time, practice smart, work hard, and play creatively.